Okay, so the reason I record it is so that you guys that are joining me live can either rewatch it or you can watch it again if you want to go over some of the content again. If you want to pause it and have some discussions with family members, etc., you can do that when it's recorded, but obviously you can't do that when it's live. And those of you that are watching the recorded session, thank you for joining me as well. Lots of people can't make it live because of the time, so they like to watch it on catch up. So, without further ado, thank you for joining me. I think I've said that about 4 times now. I have, oh, I don't know if that's very clear on the screen there,
You need to
but I,
unblur your background.
oh yeah, because my background's blurry. Anyway, don't worry. So I have got a sheet that you can download. It's on my Ko-fi page, so I know you can't really see it because the background's blurry, but don't worry. If you've not got it, it's not a problem. You don't need it, but some people like to have it to kind of make some notes as they go through. So let's get cracking. So my first session of this new big question, what is going on inside my head? So we're going to be exploring different things in terms of our thoughts. We're going to be looking at how we process information in our brain, so something called cognitive psychology. And then we're going to another session, we're going to be looking at the actual physical structure of the brain, seeing if we can label different parts. Some of you will already know those parts, some of you it'll be brand new information, and that's fantastic. Hopefully, you'll learn something that might help you if you go on to do biology studies in the future as well. And then we're going to look at what those different parts of the brain do in terms of our behavior and how they influence who we are, and then lots of other things. Okay, but today we're going to be focusing on understanding the link between thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Okay, and how each of them are interconnected, and how that our understanding and knowledge of that can maybe help us in certain situations. Okay, so let's crack on. So I want you to think of a situation that you've recently experienced. Now, I want this situation to be something quite significant, okay? So not just sat watching the telly, okay? I want it to be something where you've had to make a big decision or something that's had a big emotion linked to it. So just pause and have a think of a situation that you've recently experienced. I say recent just so that you can remember it quite well. Okay. Whilst you're thinking of that situation, what I want you to do is either note down, discuss, or think, what were you thinking during that situation? What were you feeling? And what was your behavior? How did you act? What did you do? So if you would like to share it in the chat box, that's absolutely fine. I'd love to hear some of your answers. But if not, keep it to yourself, discuss it with someone at home, that's absolutely fine. I'll just give you a minute or so to do that. And this is your activity, you can keep it private. And if you can't think of any, please don't worry, because it's something you might come back to at a later stage. It might be next week. Something happens, you think something, you feel something, or you do something, and you can come back to this mentally. You can think about this lesson and you can do this activity then, can't you? Okay, so please don't worry if you can't think of anything. Okay. Okay, so I am going to move on. But again, you continue to think that, write it down. And I want you to just think about how these thoughts, feelings, and behavior, how are they connected? What comes first? In your situation that you're thinking about, did a thought lead to a feeling that led you to behave in a certain way? Or Did you have an automatic feeling that led you to behave in a certain way? Oh, or did you do something that made you feel something, that made you think something? So I just want you to think of the order. What comes first? What comes first? Psychologists believe that these are all interconnected. And psychologists do a lot of research and have lots of theories on how these three things are what's called cyclical, meaning they work in a cycle. So we can have a thought that affects our feelings, that affects our behavior, but we can also have a behavior that affects our thoughts, that affects our feelings. So it doesn't happen in one linear way. It's not a line, okay? So hopefully that visual representation of the circle can help us to understand how they're all connected. Josie.
Um, my thought came first,
You okay?
and then really my feeling, my act came like at the same time, sort of.
So sometimes they do. Sometimes they do happen at the same time. You're absolutely right. The psychologists are really interested to find out if we try to change our thoughts, does it change how we feel? Or if we change what we do, can it change how we feel? And that's what we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So when we're talking about thoughts, psychologists call this cognition. So a nice fancy key term there for you to try to remember. Anything to do with cognition or cognitive psychology is all about how we process information in our mind, our thoughts and our thinking. So thoughts are mental representations of things that we experience in the world. So how we interpret events and situations, our own beliefs and ideas about things from the past can influence our current thoughts. So we might believe something, it might be a religious belief, it might be a value. They can influence our thoughts currently. It might be something that we've experienced in the past that as we're experiencing something new in the present, it's affecting our thoughts. So we have things called schemas. I don't know if I've mentioned that before in any of the sessions that you've joined me when we've looked at schemas. These are mental like folders in our mind of what we use to interpret the world around us. And thoughts are influenced by those. Our thoughts can be automatic. So we've said that previously. So we might have a thought, it pops into our head. We've not consciously decided to have that thought, it just comes. And they're not always accurate. We might have thoughts, we might think certain things about a situation that might not be in line with reality. It might not be accurate. For example, you might walk down the street and you might smile at somebody and they don't smile back. So you might think your automatic thought might be, oh, they're miserable. But actually, what else could that be? Can you think of anything? Why might your thought not be accurate there? Why might they not have
They might be
smiled?
sad.
Because they might be have
Or they
something
didn't
going
see
on,
you.
or they didn't see you. So there might be two reasons why they didn't smile. They didn't see you. Excellent, Sarah and Beth. They said the same. Or they might have something going on in their life that's made them sad. They're not miserable. They're not a boring person, but your automatic thought was that. Now, why did you think that? Maybe because it's based on previous experiences where people haven't smiled to you,
Yeah.
or certain assumptions and beliefs that you have that smiling and waving is polite. So our thoughts can be automatic and not always accurate. Now, one thing that psychologists focus on sometimes is called cognitive distortions. And this is an example of when our thoughts might not be accurate. And again, this is a big complex key term that some of you might not be able to remember, and that's fine. We take out of this lesson what we can. You don't have to remember everything. So this is where our thoughts, cognitions, are distorted, changed. Like overgeneralizing or catastrophizing. Lots of big words there. When you catastrophize something or you make an overgeneralization, you take something small and you make it really, really big. Like, for example, if you was to fail a test, I'll give you an example. I failed my driving test a lot of times. I say it took me 7 times to pass my driving test, but I'm not sure if I've changed that over time. I think it might be 5, but at least 5. I could have failed my test and I could have made an overgeneralization. I'm going to fail at everything. I'm no good. I will never pass my test.
You'll never drive in your
I will
life.
never drive. So I've catastrophized, I've overgeneralized, I've made a small thing quite big. And how's that going to influence the way you feel? That's going to make me feel quite sad. That's going to
Yeah.
make me, it's going to affect my emotions in a negative way. I might feel upset with myself. I might feel angry at myself,
Maybe
frustrated, useless, good word. Whereas if I'd have took that situation and my thought was, oh, I'll just try harder next time, or never mind, then that's going to influence my emotions in a different way.
Yeah, or like you're like, I've noticed my mistakes and I won't do them again.
Exactly, reflecting on those mistakes. Now, sometimes people make cognitive distortions. Um, well, they are automatic thoughts, and we can't always change our thoughts straight away. Sometimes that's a really difficult thing to do. And cognitive distortions have been associated with people who suffer from depression. So this would be something if you was to study psychology later on and maybe do GCSE or even A-level psychology, you would look at this in more detail when you study things like depression or schizophrenia and other mental health difficulties. So when we're looking at emotions, emotions are physiological responses. Basically, that means something that's going on in your body that is responding to those thoughts or events or situations in the environment. They may involve things like happiness, sadness, anger, those emotions that we might be familiar with, frustration, disappointment. There's lots and lots of different emotions that we could explore and reflect on. And they also can involve physical reactions. So I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you feel a bit stressed. You might have your heart rate might start to pound. You might start to feel a little bit sweaty. You get a dry mouth. Your saliva decreases. So when you're feeling something like stress or panic or worry, we have some physiological changes happening in our body, and that's really to protect us in those situations of might be perceived danger. Our body's going through a fight or flight response. That's something for another lesson.
Or
Okay.
freeze.
Or freeze. Yes, well done. So emotions often arise, often come to us when we have our thoughts. If a person thinks something is threatening, they may feel fearful. If they interpret something as unfair, they may feel angry. So again, it's how we're interpreting the situation, what we're thinking about a situation can influence our feelings, okay? Our behavior, our action or response. So, our behavior is what people see, it's our outward expression of thoughts and emotions. So, we can't often see people's thoughts, and we can't see often well, we definitely can't see their thoughts, and we often can't see people's emotions. What we can see is their behavior, what people do, what people say, and how they physically react in a situation. Now, we might watch somebody behave in a certain way. We might be able to make what's called an inference, which is a conclusion based on evidence. We might be able to make an educated guess on what they're thinking and feeling. If I walked into a room and slammed the door, had my arms folded, and had a bit of a huff and puff on my face, what might you think is my thoughts or emotions?
Might feel mad or frustrated.
Absolutely. So you're watching someone's behavior, and then we can make a guess, an inference about what they're thinking or feeling. Okay. And that's what we have to recognize, that our behavior tells a story.
Mhm.
Okay. So other people might interpret our behavior rightly or wrongly because they're basing their interpretations on their emotions and their thoughts and their experiences. So we're all interacting in a world together with our own sets of thoughts, our own emotions, and our own behaviors. So not only do we have to sometimes think about our cyclical nature, that behavior, emotion of thoughts, but we have to think of others as well. Anyway, I've done quite a lot of talking there, haven't I? A lot of talking. So, what you think can affect how you feel and act in a summary. Okay? If you're having unhelpful, negative thoughts, by changing them, you might be able to shift your emotions and your behavior. Does that make sense? Because if
Mhm.
our thoughts are affecting our emotions, if we can change our thoughts, we might be able to change how we're feeling. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's easy in a situation, it's not, but I want us to try to flip the thought. So, on your sheet or on the screen in front of you, you've got some thoughts. So, maybe negative thoughts, some thoughts that might lead to negative emotions. What I'd like you to do is just to spend 2 minutes. I'm not going to give you any longer. 2 minutes to flip the thought. Try to change that thought into a thought that might change the feeling. So I'm going to give you an example. If we have a look at this, oh, I'm going the wrong way. Do that every time, every week. If we have a look at this one here, I'm terrible at this. I'll never get better. That's going to lead us to feel not so great about ourselves. If we flip that, I might not be perfect yet, but I can improve with practice.
Mhm.
Hopefully, we can see that that might change that emotion, that feeling to a better one, a more helpful, a more pleasant emotion. So, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Okay. If you need anyone to read them out, ask someone at home if you want, or I'll quickly read them now, okay? So if you don't want to listen to me for a moment, that's absolutely fine. So here, this one. I'm going to fail at this test no matter what. How could we change that? I'll never be able to make new friends. And if you want to maybe put one in the chat box so that I can share it with everybody, don't feel you have to. Next one. This is too hard. I should just give up. I'm not good enough to join the team. I'm not as good as my friends at this. I'm so nervous. I can't do this. So if you've not had time to look at them all, obviously it's difficult if I'm reading out and you're trying to think and write down or discuss. You can always come back to this after the session. Okay, that's why I do the sheet and do the recording as well. So you can come back to it, pause me and have that discussion and time to think. So we're going to have a look through them. Josie, do you want me to share any of yours? Do you want to share?
Yeah.
Okay, which one?
Um, the, the one that says this is too hard, I should just give up. I've said I'll come back tomorrow because like you might be doing it too long today, and you're like, do you know what? I'll come back tomorrow, and I might be more.
You might be able to do it because
Yeah.
sometimes if you take a break from something,
Yeah.
you might then come back with a fresh mind,
Yeah.
feeling a bit more positive about it. It's a really good one. So, which one was that? This is too hard. I should just give up. So, maybe it's too hard right now. Let me walk away from it. If you're doing a jigsaw or something, or you're trying to do a really difficult maths problem,
Lego.
you're trying to build Lego and you just can't do it. Let's come away from it, have a breather, come back and try again. Well done. Okay, that was really good. So what else have we got? I'm going to fail this test no matter what. I've studied and I can do my best. Even if it's hard, I'll try my best. That's all you can do. You can only ever do your best. Okay, can't do more than that, can you? That's the bit that you can control. You can control doing your best, and the outcome of it, you'll just maybe then you can manage the outcome later. Like when I failed the driving test, I tried my best every single time, and I failed on something different every single time. And it was frustrating because I knew I could do everything they were asking me to do because last time I did it. I'm just not doing it this time. So I couldn't do everything together, basically.
Failed loads of times. So then you were like, okay, so I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to do
So I
that.
learned from all those
Yeah,
things.
and then you're like,
And
so I'm allowed to do this.
I got lots of practice, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Matilda's put, I will try my best on my tests. Absolutely. And that's what you can do. Try your best. Next one. This is too hard. I should just give up. This is tough. So sometimes recognizing and just being honest that things are hard, that's okay. And sometimes if you recognize it, it makes it easier because you realize that just because something's hard, it doesn't mean that you can't do it. Okay. If you break it up into smaller steps and ask for help if you need, then maybe you'll be able to do it. Next one. I'm not good enough to join the team. I'm not good enough to join the team. Oh no, sorry, this is a different one. I'll never be able to make new friends. Making friends takes time. I can find people I connect with by myself. So rather than, again, overgeneralizing and saying, I'll never be able to make friends, maybe if we think, right now it's difficult to make friends, but I will make friends in time and I will find the people that are right for me. Sometimes in the moment, things can feel very difficult, can't they? Especially if you're struggling to make new friends, I can imagine that feels very difficult and very upsetting.
Or like your other friend has made a friend with them, but they don't want you to be their friend.
So if you feel like they're making friends with other people and you're not included, it can be difficult, can't it? I'm not as good as my friends at this. We all have different strengths. I can keep practicing and be proud of my own abilities.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I've got two children, they're very different, have different skills, different abilities. One's very competent on a bike and scooter and can do it very well, and one not so much. And it's important to recognize that that's okay because we all have different strengths. Okay. You might be a really good swimmer, you might be a fantastic musician, you might be a good problem solver. So it's trying to find the strengths that you've got and not compare yourself to other people,
And you
maybe.
could ask your friend for like some tips, like
Absolutely, you can learn from other people as well, can't you? Brilliant. So, next one. I'm so nervous, I can't do this. It's okay to feel nervous. Feeling nervous is your body's way of protecting you in a situation that your brain is perceiving, is judging as dangerous. Okay, so when we're feeling nervous and a little bit anxious, it is trying to protect us. Now, obviously, some people can have very extreme nervous reactions to situations and anxiety, and sometimes it's very, very difficult to flip the thought. So, I am not saying that this is an easy thing to do, particularly within a situation of heightened stress and anxiety. but we're just doing this as an activity now to maybe help us in those situations where we can try to what's called reframe our thoughts. It's okay to feel nervous. I can try to use this energy to focus and do my best, which is not always easy when you're feeling nervous, is it? Last one. I'm not good enough to join the team. I can bring something unique to the team and I'll get better with practice. Okay, so hopefully you had a good think about those things. And it might be something you want to try in your everyday life. If you have a situation and you recognize that your emotions and your thoughts are maybe negative or unhelpful, or maybe angry, sad, any of these emotions that you might be feeling, think about what thought you're thinking in that moment. Does that make sense? If you're
Yeah.
feeling sad, think, well, what's making me feel sad? What am I thinking about? And if what you're thinking about is something maybe negative, can you flip that thought to try to change it into a more positive thought, to try to change that emotion
Like
into more
maybe something
positive?
exciting is going on tomorrow and you're like upset that day and you're like, no, I'll think about what's happening tomorrow and it will make me excited and happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, this isn't always an easy thing to do, but it's just an exercise that we can maybe try to practice every now and again.
Because I'm not
Okay?
good at it.
Because these things, like I say, can affect your emotions and then can affect your behavior as a consequence of that. Okay. So we've talked about flipping the thought. Now we can also think about engaging in behaviors that are going to influence our thoughts and our feelings. So we can engage in behaviors, we can do things that promote relaxation, that promote social interaction. These are just a couple of examples, even when we don't feel like it. And these can have a positive effect on our thoughts and our emotions. I don't know if you've ever woke up and you thought, I just can't be bothered doing anything today. Sometimes it's okay to have those days where you just relax and you don't do anything. You might want today that you might want to be more productive. You might want to interact with people. So it's trying to think about how these behaviors are influencing our thoughts and emotions. Because if we're having a day where we just want to relax and it's having a positive effect on our emotions, great. But if we're having a lazy day and we're not really interacting with people and we're not doing things maybe that we'd want to do, it might have a negative effect on our thoughts and emotions. And then you're kind of stuck in that vicious cycle. Because if you're having negative thoughts and emotions, it's going to affect your behavior in a negative way, which is going to affect your emotions even more. Doesn't it? You get what I mean? So it's trying to think about how we can engage in things that are going to promote those positive thoughts and emotions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you to, oh, someone's put in the chat that my screen's frozen. Oh no. Okay, so it's not frozen for everybody. So that's not an issue at my side. So I'm sorry about that. Oh, it's fixed. Fantastic. Okay, we're back together. So, we're just gonna do a quick relaxation activity. Okay. So what I would like you to do, oh, I'll come back to that. What I'd like you to do is I'd want you to picture the screen. So look at the screen. You can see we've got the orange circle in the middle coming out and going in. I want you to imagine, visualize that's the air coming into your lungs and out. So we're going to breathe in when the orange circle's getting big, and I want you to blow out through your mouth when the circle's getting small. So breathe in and breathe out. And again, in and out. Close your eyes, visualize that circle. You don't have to do the hands. I don't know why I'm doing the hands as well, like I'm doing some Tai Chi. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But the idea, if you are feeling nervous, if you are feeling anxious, if you are wanting to relax, okay, if you breathe in and out consciously, maybe visualizing this circle or just concentrating on the breath, then that will relax your nervous system, especially if you breathe out longer than you breathe in. So it's called the 7-11 technique. If you breathe in for 7 counts, and out for 11. That slows your nervous system down. So you are not only doing something behaviorally and taking a mindful moment, you are actually changing the physiological responses to that situation. You're calming your nervous system down. So if you want to engage in something relaxing that promotes relaxation, you might write a journal, you might do some exercise, you might listen to some music, you might do some drawing, whatever it is that promotes relaxation for yourself. And it will be individual, won't it? It might be getting out in nature and doing a nice nature walk. Okay, so behaviors that promote social interaction is going to be things like actively listening to other people, communicating and talking, asking people questions. You know, if you ask people questions, you are creating that interaction with others. So that could be online, it could be, with your friends in person, trying to empathize and understand other people's point of view. And you might want to do puzzles and play games. Lots of things that can promote social interaction that can change how you feel and then your thoughts. So we're going to do a bit of social interaction here. I'd like you to pop in the chat and tell me, would you rather have webbed feet like a duck or have a beak like a bird?
I know.
So let everyone think first. Let's do some interaction. I know it's via message. You might want to interact with somebody at home, ask them this question. Now, I want you to tell me why, please. You must be able to justify. Okay. So we've got you would rather have webbed feet like a duck, so it will help you to swim. Okay, so swimming's important. Yes. You adore swimming, so you'd like to be like a duck. Lots of people, webbed feet so I can swim faster. Has anyone got a justification why you would like to have a beak like a bird? Okay, Josie, what do you want to share?
I went web feet like a duck because I feel like if I have a beak like a bird, I won't be able to talk at anyone because all they will hear was tweet tweet.
So you
Like
don't want
eat
to
my
lose the
food.
language.
No, and how would I eat my food? Like it's still
Okay.
got hands, but I don't like eat my hands like
Okay.
my beak. I want
Okay.
webbed feet because like I was thinking like I couldn't grip onto rocks easier and
Ah,
then I'll
good.
slip.
And the swimming as well. Someone's put here, webbed feet so I can swim better. I don't want to beat because I think I'd only be able to eat certain foods, which is
Yeah.
what you were saying. And then we've got a couple of people giving me a picture of a duck. I don't know how you managed to do. Oh, the emojis, is it? Well done. That's brilliant. Someone wants to have a beak so that they can honk. Fantastic. Love that
Like if
justification.
someone's annoying you, you can just honk and say, I'm gonna carry on doing this if you don't stop.
Okay, next one. Would you rather have a never-ending supply of your favorite snacks, but you can only eat them once a week, or always have a different surprise snack every day, but you'll never know what you'll get? Okay, have a think of that one. So a surprise snack every day or your favorite snack, but only once a week. Okay.
I've got
A
mine.
surprise snack, never end. Oh, we got a mixture here. Can you justify why, please, so we can get some interaction?
I've got to justify why.
Go on, Josie, what's yours?
I want my favorite snack each week because I don't like certain food, and if they give me like a pickle, I won't eat it.
Right, so
And
there's
then I'm
certain foods you don't like, so that would worry you, that
yeah.
surprise
But if
snacks.
it wasn't a surprise snack and I got to pick, I would probably pick that.
But that's not in the question, so
No.
you're not allowed
No.
that. Okay, a surprise snack, so I could have one a day. Um, a surprise because it never ends and it'll help me try new things. Yes, good. It will help you try new things. Surprise, so I can try different things. I prefer to know what my snack is. So that's
Yeah.
what you were saying. So you
Yeah.
want the never-ending snack. Um, Jacob just wants to honk, so he still wants the beak. A surprise snack because you like variation. Really good justifications, guys. You wouldn't have to eat the surprise snack. You could save them up because you might get bored of the same item. It's a good
Mm.
point. Surprise snack because you like surprises. Lots of good ideas there. So maybe this is something that you could ask people at home. On the sheet that I've given you, there's lots of different ones. So, would you like to moo like a cow when you cry or squeak like a mouse when you laugh? Would you have fingers for toes or toes for fingers? So, lots of different ones. So, maybe try and do a social interaction task this week. Okay. Eve, I've just realised that you've got your hand raised. Did you want to say something, Eve? No? Okay. Oh, don't worry, Eve. Sorry about that. Okay, really quickly, because I am conscious of time. I could do this for a couple of hours each week, couldn't I? But we don't have the time. Just going to teach you some psychology now, some psychology that focuses on how our behavior is influenced by these cognitions, these thoughts, and how when we interpret the world, it shapes our emotions and actions. So the first thing we're going to look at is Ellis's ABC model. Ellis is a psychologist that looks at depression and how people with depression may be interpreting the world around them in a certain way. So the ABC model is an activating event, which is something in the environment, something happens that causes a belief. Now, that belief is that thought, and that belief causes a consequence. Now, the consequence can either be an emotion or a behavior. So, ABC, activate an event, belief, and consequence. Now, Ellis believes when something happens, the activating event, we can either have a belief that is rational, meaning it's a logical way of thinking about a situation. And that might lead to positive emotions. Ellis also believes that we can have the same event, but it could lead to what's called an irrational belief. So, a belief that might not be clear or logical or positive. Sometimes irrational doesn't always mean negative, actually. So, we have to be careful there. Irrational means it kind of doesn't make sense to have that viewpoint. And sometimes these irrational thoughts can lead to negative emotions and behaviors. But we're going to have a look at an example here really quickly. A friend doesn't message you back. So you've sent them a text message or you've sent them an email or whatever way that we message friends these days. What might the belief and the consequence be? So if you've got your sheet, you can write it on there. If not, you can just discuss it. Think about a rational belief that might lead to a positive emotion and maybe an irrational belief that can lead to maybe a negative emotion.
So we've texted our friend and they haven't
And they
texted
haven't
back.
texted you back.
Okay.
So you'd assume that they were busy or they can't think of a reply they'd like to do, so they need more time. So that might be what's called a rational belief. They don't want to talk to you, might be an irrational belief, because where's the evidence? Where's the evidence they don't want to talk to you? Oh no, they hate me, could be an irrational belief, well done. Or, oh, they're busy, that could be rational. So it's,
Maybe
sorry,
you've
go on.
like fallen out with them that week and you've just messaged them to say, like, do you want to go to the cafe? Like, I'm really sorry. And they're still mad at you because what you've done has made them really mad. So they don't want to reply to you because they don't feel like they can.
So maybe you're thinking about the whole situation of what's happened. Yeah. So, but what it could be on the opposite of that, someone put in the chat, they just need more time to
Yeah,
think about what to write. So can you see how if we think they need more time,
yeah,
that might lead us to think, okay, it's all right. They've not fallen out with me.
yeah,
But if we think what you said,
yeah,
they don't want to talk to me, that can make us feel upset.
yeah,
Okay. So sometimes people don't want to talk in that moment, and that's okay. They might just want to be left alone. They might need some space. And there might be lots of reasons, but hopefully you can see how these different ways of thinking can lead to different behaviors, different emotions. So if we think they must be busy, we just wait patiently and we don't really have any negative emotions associated with it. But if we think they've fallen out with me, then this might make us feel sad or worried. So it's just this idea, this visual representation of how events, beliefs, and consequences are all connected. Okay, I'm going to whiz through this next bit, guys. I do apologize. So, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, some of you may have heard of this. This is a therapy that has been developed based on this idea that cognitions link and influence behaviors, okay? And this is often used when people are
Not
experiencing,
really.
oh, just make sure that we're on mute, guys. Often when people might be experiencing severe anxiety or depression, CBT might be offered as a treatment for those mental health difficulties. And this is where a therapist will work with the patient, sometimes called a client actually, in to try to change the distorted thinking, the way that they're thinking, into a more positive, rational way of thinking in order to help improve emotional well-being and behavior. Now, CBT has been proven to be effective. There's lots of research to show that, but it doesn't work for everyone, and there's lots of reasons why that might be. Um, One example we might look at if somebody has a social anxiety, that's where they struggle in situations with lots of other people. They may think everyone will judge me if I speak up. So therefore, they avoid social situations. So they've got a thought which causes them anxiety, which then stops them from going into situations where there's other people.
Mhm.
Now, CBT would focus on trying to challenge that thought. So they would try to say things like, where's the evidence that everyone will judge you? So a therapist doesn't make you change how you think because that's extremely difficult. A lot of these thoughts are automatic, but a therapist would work with this patient to help them to try to see an alternative way of viewing a situation. So just like we flipped that thought, they would also challenge the thought by asking them to provide evidence. So CBT would involve some homeworks. And you might be experiencing this as well, where you feel a bit nervous or anxious going into social situations. And it might be that we need to reflect on what is the thought that might be connected with that feeling. And like I said, the therapist would try to help the patient to change that thought, challenge that thought, to maybe replace it with a more balanced way of thinking to help reduce the anxiety and that avoidance behavior. Like I say, it's not effective for everybody, and there are alternative therapies as well. Attribution theory is this idea that we interpret the causes of our behavior on either internal factors or external factors. So when we behave in certain ways and we do things, we can either think it's because of things like our personality, something inside, or something in the environment, an external factor. Now, research has shown that this can influence how we feel. So, if a student thinks that a poor grade is because of their lack of intelligence, then this is an internal attribute. They may feel helpless and want to give up. However, if we think it's because we've just not tried hard enough, which is external, this might motivate a person to work harder next time. So, again, whether we think the reason for our behavior is something internal or external can influence our behavior. So this links on to Dweck's growth mindset, the belief that one can improve one's abilities and talents over time through effort and learning. So there are two mindsets that Dweck talks about, and she says that we either have a fixed or a growth mindset. And people with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities and intelligence are fixed and we can't change them. And that has led to people not feeling able to improve and give up quite easily, not liking challenges. Whereas if we have a growth mindset, these people tend to like a challenge, they feel motivated and learn from failure because they believe talents, abilities, and intelligences can change over time. Um, Just another one, cognitive reappraisal, or emotion regulation theory, changing one's interpretation of a situation in order to alter its emotional impact can lead to more positive behaviors by encouraging healthier emotional responses. So again, going back to what we've said before, you can see how there's lots of different theories for a similar idea that if we can change how we interpret a situation, how we see a situation, it might able us or enable us to change our emotional responses to that situation. So that's kind of like flipping that thought that we did earlier on. So instead of becoming angry when someone cuts in line, a person practicing cognitive reappraisal might think maybe they're in a hurry and respond with calmness rather than aggression. It's like people get road rage, don't they? And people cut in front of them, they're like, oh, why have you done that? But actually, rather than having that automatic response, maybe take a breath and think, maybe they didn't see me, maybe they're in a rush, and that then alters your emotional response to that situation. So that's something you can practice. Mindfulness, we kind of mentioned before, focusing on the present in the moment, non-judgmentally, it can lead to greater emotional regulation, improved mental clarity, and more positive behaviors. So just inhaling and exhaling and stopping for a moment and taking in your surroundings. Um, but what if you're in a rush too? I absolutely get that as well, Jacob. And often in today's society, I think we're all in a rush quite a lot of the time, isn't it? But maybe if we are mindful that we're in a rush, we can maybe just stop and think, can I take a moment to regulate my emotions and maybe think about one thing you can see, two things you can hear, and three things you can smell, or the other way around. One, two, three. Focus on your senses. Um, if we recognize we're getting frustrated, we can try to do something mindful in order to pause, to have a different positive response. And I'm just going to leave with a final thought because I am conscious that I've done a lot of talk in this lesson and I didn't expect it to be so talky, so I apologize. A final thought, try to challenge the negative thoughts when we have them, because we all have them. We can all be quite hard on ourselves sometimes. You know, if you think that you're always going to fail, try to find the evidence. Is there an alternative point of view? And then to recognize how that alternative point of view might make you feel. Just make sure we're on mute, guys. And just check that you're on mute. There we go. I've popped you on mute. Another one, take a break. If you are feeling frustrated, you're recognizing your emotions are getting heightened, maybe you're starting to feel stressed. Try to take a break to reset your emotions. It might be you need to stand up and stretch, you might need to walk, get out in the fresh air, or do something you enjoy. Because, like we've said before, the behaviors can change our feelings. Talk about it. It's really important that you talk to a trusted friend or adult, and maybe they can help you see things from an alternative, a different point of view in a situation if you are struggling with maybe thinking a bit negatively about a situation. My mum always used to say, a problem shared is a problem halved. It's not always solved because just talking about it doesn't solve the problem, but it allows you to process the problem, the situation, or the thought. Okay. So thank you so much. I have done a lot of talking there. I'll try to make next week a little bit more on you and less on me. But thank you. Get your parents to email me if you've got any questions. I do offer some small group GCSE sessions, and remember, every week now we're going to have this free session on a Monday at 12:30. And next week, we're going to be looking at the physical structure of the brain, going to do some neuroscience. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording in 1 second, and then you can all say bye if you want to.